Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Thrivecast, unlocking your full potential. Your well-being is our priority, and we're here to provide you with practical, heartfelt advice on living your best life. Together, we'll explore identity, purpose, prosperity mindset, authenticity, and so much more. So grab your headphones and get ready. Your journey starts now. So, welcome everyone to Thrivecast, Unlocking Your Full Potential. I'm Oscar, I'm an emotional fitness coach, and I help people find and embody their true self so they can live their divine purpose. And with me today, I have Katarina Hanssens Carlsson. Katarina, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you, Oscar. So I'm Katarina Hanssens Carlsson, and I'm the founder of Global Leadership Schools, creating the most dynamic and innovative schools in the world. So that's it. And our topic today is, are we educating our children? So Oscar, what do you think?
Well, it depends, right? Because people need to understand what does educating means.
Yes.
So I would say, no, we're not. And then people say, well, why? Why are we not educating? I mean, they go to school, right?
Yes.
But educating actually comes from educare, which means to bring out. And what we're doing in school is we are pushing in. Because there's a natural essence that is inside every human being that makes them flourish. You know, it's like slowly opening a rose. The rose is so beautiful, but you cannot force a rose to open. And what we're instead doing is like, we're not even close to opening that rose. We're rather like, here's this type of nourishment, here's that type of nourishment, and we're flooding it with what we think the rose should look like, instead of understanding that every rose in itself is different from each other rose, right? Or every other flower that is out there, right? Everything has a uniqueness to it. And what we've done in our education system is that we're pushing things in. And I don't know the Latin word for pushing things in, right? But that is essentially what we're doing. So we are normalizing a way of, this is how you're supposed to exist. But the soul of a human being is so dynamic. So when you push that in, you start stagnating the natural tendency and the joy of expression that exists in a human being. So are we educating people? No, we're not. No, we're not. We're doing something completely different that is taking away innovation instead of really bringing it out, right? Because we're putting people into a machinery that we hope that machinery will work. But the thing is this, that the machinery right now in the world is breaking down. You know, the cogs in the wheels are like, they're going all ways, right? So because we need a new type of machine, or maybe no machine at all. We need an organic beingness of human beings that comes out from the natural flourishing inside of themselves. So that is education for me, and we're nowhere close to it, but we're coming there. What would you say, Katarina?
Thank you, Oscar. That was brilliant. Well, no, I agree with you. We are forcing children to learn certain subjects, and they look at you as if, like, because I've been a teacher, like, what? What are you teaching us now? And why? And what's that got to do with me? And I don't like the subject. And I don't even like the teacher. So if you look at the NASA study of Dr. George Land, he started a project that tested 1,600 children in the States, and he used teachers as part of this research. And they found that children up to the age of 6 are coming from a creative genius, 98% creative genius. But by the time they're teenagers, it's down to 12%. That's what we're doing in schools. We are downing our children. We are not educating them in the sense that Oscar said, educare. We're not bringing out their brilliance. We are repressing it. No wonder there is so much anxiety in schools, because we're forcing in the subjects and then we're testing them and then they have exams. So if you're not academic and if you're not intellectual, you don't belong in school. But you still have to go to school because it's compulsory. And your parents can even be fined for not sending you to school. So by the time that this group were adults, it was down to 2%. So our leaders, the people who are leading the world, are coming from only 2% creative genius. 2 instead of 98%. Okay, so we need to change what we're doing in schools. So what is education? It's what we're not doing. All right. Second question, what is education for? I mean, why do we have schools, Oscar?
Well, currently we're having schools in order to maintain something that is broken, in order to maintain a system that is not nourishing the souls of a human being, but nourishing something that is very external, nourishing essentially. But we have to also acknowledge that the reason why it's been there, first of all, is that we need to come to a place as human beings where we are surviving, because if we're not surviving, it's not even possible to create, being and thinking of what we're going through right now. I'm reading such a fascinating book, and it said that the reason why we even can come to this place is because we need leisure, right? Human being needs a leisure time in order to cultivate newer and more prosperous ways of thinking. So what we've done throughout this century is that we've at least come to the place where we made it possible to come to have leisure time. And before, as human beings, we just existed on we need to work and maintain so we can survive. But we're moving into something new, right? And some people call it age of Aquarius, right? It's an age of innovation. It's an age of prosperity. It's an age of new ways of thinking. Aquarius stands very much for a new ways of thinking. And so that is what's occurring right now, and it's reaching critical mass, right? Because it's going so fast. Information is coming so extraordinary fast. And so it's possible for these geniuses and pioneers to take these multitude of subjects that is out there and synthesize it and start understanding that let's go back to the true essence of what we are. We can start acknowledging this, that the masters have been speaking about, right? Know thyself. But now we're knowing ourselves on a global basis, right? It's as human beings are coming to awareness of what is truly their true ways of being. And from that, we're going to build something completely different. And I know I went a little bit out of bounds there, but I just felt that this needs to be said. Yeah. And Katarina, please, give a comment to this.
All right. So the question was, what is education for?
Yeah.
So for me, what has it been in the past? Well, since the age of it, the industrial age, mom and dad had to go to work, right? Just to put bread on the table. So what do you do with the children? You cannot leave them on the street. Well, it's not advisable. So then you had to send them to a school, and where the teacher would teach whatever she came up with, you know, numbers, reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever. And there was punishment if you didn't get it correct. Not in every school, but even recently in Scotland, there's been punishment in schools, and possibly all over the world. I don't know, not in Scandinavia anyway, but still, if a child doesn't do well in a test, he or she still feels guilty, and they should not. And maybe we should do away with those kind of tests. So school was for babysitting children and young people while mom and dad worked, so they could pay their taxes, so they would work financially. And it still is so. So what should education really be for? Number one, to bring out the brilliance of every single child, to nurture that 98% genius, to bring out entrepreneurship in the children that are natural entrepreneurs, which is about 30% of the class. 30% in my experience are intellectual and academic, and they want to go to university because mom and dad did, or that mom and dad didn't, and they want to become doctors, lawyers, etc., etc. But, and that's what our educational system is for. It's academic, it's intellectual, but not every student is intellectual or academic. They may be very highly intelligent. That's another conversation. So the third 30% or 33% are sports people, artists, entertainers, dancers. So what about them? Are they left out in school? Usually, yeah. It's like, okay, so maybe you're an entertainer, you can, you know, in art classes, maybe you do well, maybe in drama classes you do well, but the rest of your subjects just suck. That's also an intelligence that we are disregarding. So we should bring out the intelligence. What is education for? To bring out the genius and the intelligence of every single student. Right. Next question. How can we transform global education, Oscar? Now, solve that problem in 2 minutes.
Well, it's a mind shift. Essentially, it's a mind shift, and it's definitely an openness for our leaders, our hopefully current leaders, that acknowledges the fact that things are not working. And the reason why it's not working is because we're not acknowledging the natural flow of a human being. And so how can we do that? Well, first of all, the leaders need to acknowledge, like, look, we need a different way of educating people. And then the teachers become very humble to the fact that, well, right now I'm not really educating people. I'm not feeling, you know, it's because we have to also understand this, that there's a certain type of pride in teachers. I was like, oh, I'm a teacher and they should listen to me, right? When it's actually about you as a teacher bringing forth something out of another. It's not you forcing your knowledge upon someone else's, because it's so easy to get into that idea that's like, oh, if they're not listening to me, I'm not good enough, right? So a lot of our teachers exist on this basis of, like, we need to be acknowledged because we've never been nurtured ourselves. So the teachers need to understand that their job is to bring forth brilliance out of their students, and not feeling so extremely prideful that it needs to be their what you call it, their job, or it's like it's oh, I taught them, I made this, right? They can absolutely acknowledge that they did this, but it's not for them to see like, oh, they need to get what I am teaching, right? It's not about the push, it's about the pull, right? So when our politicians acknowledge we need new education, and then our teacher says like, look, I want to learn a way how to bring brilliance, then we have an alignment in this way of education, and the children, they're just open. So when you start actually speaking to the children in the way that is bringing out this, they will just thrive, right? They will just shine. So I would say that would be a way of at least starting this, and we need to start it, and we should have started it yesterday,
or maybe 50 years ago,
or 50 years ago. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Oscar. It's obvious to me that young people's minds and even young people's brains work a lot faster than most of their teachers. And they go to a history lesson, for example, and they sit there for an hour. They go home and they go on YouTube and they get in 10 minutes what the teacher was trying to teach in 1 hour, and maybe succeeded, maybe failed. All right, so we need a new system. Andrew Dorman created, from the States, he was the Roosevelt's and the Kennedy's coach. He created a system called right brain, left brain teaching, super teaching, where imagine you go into a classroom, there's a right brain screen and it's nature. Left brain screen, all the facts you need to learn. Interactive screen with your teacher. I've actually experienced this, and I learned about raising capital in 10 minutes, and that's not my favorite subject at all, but I could speak like an expert after that lesson. So imagine the teacher comes in, presses a button and says, okay, let's start. And certain children who really love that subject have actually helped to create the left screen with and for the teacher. So there's less work for the teacher, more effective learning. You learn in 10 minutes, and then you can go into groups and do something creative like, okay, so we've learned about the Boston Tea Party. Let's have a drama group. Let's have a quiz group. Let's have an entertainment group, whatever, so that every child feels that they participate in the lesson. They give to the lesson. They provide their brilliance to the lesson. Okay, so that's one thing. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do academic subjects. Yes, we should, but in this way and much more effectively. And number one, we need to retrain the principals so they're dynamic leaders. Because if the principal is dynamic, knows the names of the teachers work as a team, and the mission is to bring out the brilliance of every student, that's going to happen instead of being administrators. So first of all, the principals, then the teachers, bringing out their own brilliance. When they bring out the brilliance, they can bring out the brilliance of their students. And I'm creating a digital training right now to do exactly that. It's very exciting. So the teachers will be able to use an app and find out the brilliance of every student. For example, what is it they love to do at the weekends? What is it they do in their spare time? What is their favorite subject? Who is their favorite teacher? Who inspires them the most in the school? What is their least favorite subject? Do they intend to do something about it or not? All of that information is accessible to every single student, so every single teacher, excuse me, and every teacher can access the brilliance profile of every student. So with the disruptive students, they can start a conversation about, oh, I know you love to skateboard at the weekends, so the teacher knows something about that child, knows where they want to go in 5 years, and can have a great communication with every single student.
Wonderful. I just wanted to acknowledge the practicality of this. It's amazing to hear it. I was in this state of like, ooh, I can see the vision, and you're like, well, this is how we make the vision structured. So thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. I mean, my vision, my idea is that young children can start their entrepreneurial journey, if they want to, at the age of 7, and leave school with a business they can monetize. Imagine if that happens in countries that are financially in trouble. That the children actually leave school. They can tell their parents, by the time I leave school, I'll have a business. I can maintain the whole family. Imagine the impact that would make globally. Also, imagine that there's a group of young people, and it could be any country in the world, and there's like 5 young people, girls and boys, visionaries, organizers, marketers, and they're in one team, and they've created a skateboard. They love physics. Why? Because physics has helped them to create a skateboard that has never existed before. So it's 7 p.m. at night, and mom calls and says, where are you? Supper's on the table. Come home now. And they say, no, we are so passionate about our project. Bring supper here, because you have to see this. This skateboard is phenomenal. That's how I see it. And imagine 195 schools, one school in one country, in one school in one town, in every country in the world. And you can network with 195 different countries and different languages. So that's the school of the future, the most innovative, dynamic schools in the world. Ta-da!
Extraordinary.
All right. So that's the future of education. And people are going to love going to school. Even parents are going to love going to school and just observing what
exactly because
their genius students have created. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because we have to acknowledge the fact that people say like, ooh, oh yeah, I did 12 or 15 years of education. Now I'm done, right? But no, education is our entire life. But if you really enjoy it, if we enjoy that learning process, of course we're continuously just going to be loving to just learn more about ourselves, because the fact is this, that never ends, right? We will just expand into this as human beings, as we're seeing these grand pioneers and having great visionary ideas. But imagine if 30% of people could embody that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this world would look like. And it's something out of the myth of a golden age that would be extraordinary for everyone.
Yes, and it's actually very real. We have the trainings, we have the solutions. It's very real, and it will happen. Yeah. And beyond entrepreneurship is futurepreneurship. That's a thing of the future. Young people want to, with their 98% genius, they want to change the world, and they will. They are our future leaders. And in school, they'll learn cooperation rather than competition. Yeah. And they will change our world for us. So, all right, Oscar. So how do people reach you?
Well, you reach me through my Facebook group, Live Your Purpose. Also on Oscar Nygren on YouTube, and I have a website called realitydecoding.com. And you, Katarina, how do people reach you?
Through LinkedIn is best. Catherine Carlsson, Katherine, Carlsson, Carlsson. My brand name is Katarina Hanssens Carlsson, but look up Global Leadership Schools. It's on LinkedIn, it's on my profile. And you can message me, connect with me, and message me on LinkedIn. So, what have we got next week? Well, I've just come up with it. It's called What is Emotional Rape? Oscar and I have just been talking about that, and we've just come up with this. And it's very controversial, but what is emotional rape? So see you next week.
Yeah, see you everyone. Take care.